Beyonce was crazy in love, Madonna was crazy for you, and Robert Palmer was addicted to love. Great songs right there. Those are just metaphors. Are they metaphors, or does romance really take a toll on your brain?
How does your brain experience the most powerful force in the world? Joining us today is neurosurgeon Paul Kalushian, or Dr. K. We're going to call you that, Dr. K. Good morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. Love is in the air.
Love is always in the air, if you ask me. All right, so let's talk about the brain, because people often talk about the heart and emotions and all that. What happens in the brain when we feel love?
Well, love is a wonderful emotion. And actually, Hathaway wrote that song, What is Love? I think we all know about that song. I don't know if he found love, but certainly us neuroscientists have figured out the molecular underpinnings of love. And what it really amounts to is stress and hormones. And stress is actually very important in a very small amount because it makes us do things that we wouldn't normally do. It takes us out on a limb. It helps us take challenges on. And then those hormones, those hormones are running rampant in our body and making our brains think a certain way and act a certain way. Sometimes we don't even know why we're acting a certain way, but it's these hormones that are just running rampant and changing the way we think in our brains.
So some say those hormones could be called butterflies. So are butterflies a sign of connection, or some say maybe it's a red flag? What does it mean in terms of neurochemistry?
Yeah, so butterflies, it's kind of that warm, fuzzy feeling we get when we like something. And when you talk about those warm and fuzzy feelings and those giggly feelings, we're talking about the hormones such as dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, oxytocin, all these big words, big fancy words that make us have these wonderful feelings of fun, excitement. For example, norepinephrine, what a wonderful hormone. It actually increases our heart rate, makes us excited. It may make us stop eating for a little bit of time. I'm sure we've all experienced that when we're nervous about something, going out on a date, meeting someone for the first time. But it makes us feel fun and giggly.
You know what's interesting about what he's saying? We were talking to that financial expert earlier, and he said to don't make financial decisions. Don't get emotional.
Right.
Don't get emotional. And I'm thinking about that when you fall into love, because I think when the love eventually ends, if it ever does end, you want to go back to yourself and say, maybe you were just too emotional going into that relationship. Maybe some would say, however, though, well, maybe that's all part of love, right? You want to open yourself up. You want to be vulnerable. So can you talk about that, or do you want to talk about?
Can you give him some counseling?
Yeah. What should we do here?
Well, it's really a natural reflex. You can't really alter a lot of things about love, honestly, because it's really these hormones that get secreted from our hypothalamus, from our adrenal cortex, from our reproductive organs. And there are quite a few different stages of love. So I think those are actually very important as well. We have that lust phase where there's just everything's fantastic. We love that person. We want to know them, and all this testosterone and estrogen are circulating in our systems, both men and women. And then we go into that attraction phase where you have a lot of norepinephrine and all these other hormones like dopamine that increase our heart rate and make us energized for this new person. And then finally that attachment phase where you have a lot of oxytocin, where we actually feel comfortable now with that person, believe it or not. And so there's a wide variety of different phases of love, and you can't really alter it. I would just say relax. Everything's going to be fine. Let the body and your brain handle it, and it will work out the best way.
When you talk about all of those feelings and emotions and things, a lot of people will talk about being addicted to the beginning of those
Might
things.
as well face it, you're addicted to love.
But the beginning part of it, and then when it's not quite like that, then they lose interest. Is that kind of what happens?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I don't call it an addiction because I think people think of addiction in another term with medications, etc. But I call it a pseudo addiction. And it's really our own body's natural hormones that are secreted in appropriate amounts that give us these super highs and then these super lows sometimes. And I'm sure we've all experienced those highs and those lows. That's what it means to be human. but it's a wonderful thing. But certainly those highs are fantastic. And it's equivalent to almost taking drugs like cocaine and all these other drugs that actually increase these dopamine levels artificially. But thankfully, so our body has its own natural drugs that secretes inherently, and it's controllable. And so we can certainly get these highs. We can also get these withdrawal responses. Let's say something bad happens, the relationship doesn't work out. We're going to feel sad. We're going to feel sometimes angry, sometimes upset, and we get this withdrawal. So it's kind of like a pseudo addiction, I would say.
It's very interesting. We have a lot of more questions.
Yeah, you have to come back.
We ran out of time because Mark has a ton of questions about love. He's a totally hopeless romantic. He really is.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right, Dr. K, we appreciate your time. For more from Dr. Paul Kalushian, you can visit drpaulwriting.com. All right, thank you. We'll be right back.